When we talk about psychedelics, most of the time we focus on healing, on trauma, depression, or addiction. But what if these medicines could also be used functionally to expand awareness, strengthen relationships, and elevate leadership? Welcome back to the Psychedelic Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Austin, and today I'm speaking with Jay Fiset, a best-selling author, entrepreneur, and founder of the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator, which we'll talk a lot about in the episode today. So Jay's work explores what he calls functional psychedelics. How can we use these medicines intentionally, not just for healing the past, but for consciously creating the future? We talk about how these experiences can deepen intimacy between couples, enhance emotional intelligence for leaders, and bring more integrity into the psychedelic coaching space. We also unpack what it takes to guide others safely, why trauma-aware practices matter, and how integration is becoming the true frontier of innovation in this movement. Now, Jay has an event coming up, the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator, November 20 to 22nd. I am speaking at this event. Jay is a close friend. He's also a coach of mine, someone I've been working with over the last few months. And this Psychedelic Coach Accelerator is for coaches and practitioners who want to weave psychedelics into their practice, specifically focus on how to scale your business. So you'll want to check it out. Now, before we get into the episode today, let's just hear a quick word from our sponsors. Did you know that over 4 million people microdose psychedelics last year in the United States? And yet so few have real guidance on how to do it safely and effectively. That's exactly why I created our microdosing practitioner certification. This is an 18-week professional training where you'll master my San Pedro microdosing protocol for nervous system regulation, learning how to coach clients through it with confidence and integrity. The next cohort starts on January 6th, and early bird enrollment is open until November 16th. You'll save $1,000 when you apply early. Just visit psychedeliccoaching.institute or use the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, that's it for now. Let's get into my conversation with Jay Fiset. Hey folks, welcome back to the Psychedelic Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Austin, and today we're thrilled to welcome back Jay Fiset to the Psychedelic Podcast. Jay is a seasoned entrepreneur, speaker, and author who has spent decades building transformational businesses and programs rooted in personal development, connection, and conscious growth. Now, with his wife, Corey, Jay co-founded the Connection Experience, a couples-oriented psychedelic retreat container born from their own relational transformation through intentional psychedelic work. We've had both Jay and Corey on the podcast previously to discuss that. And now I've brought Jay back on to talk about the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator, a training that Jay is hosting. I've been told not to say a training that Jay is hosting and that I will take part in November 20 to 22nd. So Jay, it's good to have you back on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate being here and to have the conversation about our training program. Yeah. and I mean, here's the honest to goodness truth is that everything that goes online technically probably could be called a summit. It's just that this is a 3-day live experience that based on our 35 years in this space is experiential, live in person, where people actually create and develop the process in real time. So that's one of the reasons why I get a little, it's like, no, this one's a training. This is not just sit and listen to somebody in a pre-recorded format. But anyway, I really appreciate being here, and I am so thrilled that you were going to be participating. We get to talk about the microdosing certification at the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator. That's going to be so fantastic.
So let's do a little bit of a catch up since you were on the podcast last. I don't remember the exact date, but it was probably 2 or 3 years ago that you came on with Corey to talk about the Connection Experience. That has since really blossomed and developed into something greater. So just kind of give our listeners a little bit of the overview of what have you been up to over the last few years specific to psychedelics, coaching, and business building.
Wow. I will just do chapter titles, but here's something great, Paul, that I actually want to just point out is that yesterday was our 3-year anniversary of our first Connection Experience beta test, exactly 3 years to the day. So we would have been about, you interviewed us when we were about 6 months in. So it'd be about 2.5 years ago that we came and talked about the Connection Experience, and that really opened up the U.S. market for us, which I've said this to you before, I will say it again, which we are deeply grateful for your support and willingness to share what we were up to. So in a nutshell, And I'll put this in context. My dear wife and I, fundamentally high school sweethearts. As we were heading towards our 25th wedding anniversary, we didn't think we were going to make it. We had been doing all sorts of things, and we'd have, and it wasn't, nothing was terrible. We just had created this space and distance between us. And we would be able to bridge it for a while, and then it would go back. And we'd been invited to try psychedelics a couple of times. At that stage of the game in our life, we were like, oh, no, not that. Ultimately, I tried it, had an absolutely transformational experience, came home, had the talk with Corey. That led to basically about a 2.5-year exploration of psychedelics for ourselves. We went and got certified, and then we started doing this thing called the connection experience, which really mirrored the process that we had invented for us to heal ourselves. I think together we lost like 60 pounds. We transformed our relationship, parenting, all those pieces. So 3 years ago yesterday, we beta tested this experience, wondering, would anybody else like it? Would it be meaningful? All the rest of it. And if we fast forward 3 years, we have supported and assisted over 400 of those experiences with, I think, 78 different couples, because most of the couples who come back and do a process called the ritual, which is a bundle of these things together. And in that process, we have, there's just a multitude of beautiful experiences. But here's some of the highlights. We have had 3 of those couples get married. I married one of them. I was just actually yesterday asked to book in February of next year another marriage. We've renewed vows for couples in Greece. So we've really just done this incredible experience of helping couples bridge the gap between them and create a space for intimacy and connection. So back when we talked the first time, that was all we were offering, and we were clear that's all we were offering. We are not doing any more. This is what we love. This is what's fantastic. And then what transpired is we had couples who would want one-on-one work, and we said, go find somebody else. And what we discovered very quickly is that the caliber and the quality of that work out there is not necessarily what our clients are used to or what we wanted them to experience. So we started doing personal journeys. And in that process, we referred a bunch of folks to the training organization that we did. And then that training organization sort of went through some transitions, and we couldn't do that. So then people are asking us, well, would you train us? Because we've trained quite literally thousands of coaches and facilitators in our own personal development and transformation work. So we designed a program called Foundations, a psychedelic guide certification. We've developed a couples microdosing program that I think is the only couples microdosing program on planet Earth. We have rolled out our own microdosing product line and are in the process of refining that. So I'm missing a few things in there as well. Some international retreats called the Vision Retreat for Couples. And of course, our weekly integration membership platform called Integrate, What Happens in Between. So we haven't been doing much. We've developed into a kind of a cool, strong 7-figure business for what we have called our accidental business. We never came to this with a commercial intent, but it unfolded based on demand and request and us listening to our clients and our tribe. And what else should I say about all of that? Which really brings us to I'm in the process of coaching and consulting a variety of people in the psychedelic space. And a ton of our sort of community and coaches and consultants and therapists keep showing up and going, it's like, how'd you do that? And we finally decided we'd put together a 3-day program called the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator to share the context, the framework, and the fundamentals of what it takes in this weird, unique, and beautiful space of psychedelic work. That was as fast as I could possibly say that.
So one question that's coming up, and I imagine some of our listeners are also having this question, is, personal development work and the sort of foundation that you laid through building that business. It really is a good foundation for stepping into psychedelics. And yet, as you would likely agree, psychedelics add another layer of complexity and challenge and nuance in terms of the particularities, not only legally, but also transference and countertransference and suggestibility and vulnerability and things like this. So talk us through a little bit about, how is the training that you're now doing and sort of the way that you stepped into this role sort of emergently How is that different maybe from what you had done for decades in the past? Because I know there's a lot of overlap and similarity, but what are some unique things specific to the psychedelic space that you've sort of picked up on and recognized as you've started to really integrate into it? As psychedelics move into the mainstream, we need trained and ethical professionals who can guide others through these powerful experiences with care, skill, and integrity. And that's what our practitioner certification program is all about. Over 6 months, you'll learn how to coach at the leading edge, combining neuroscience, integration frameworks, and trauma-informed practices. This program also includes a transformational in-person intensive in Costa Rica, where you'll get hands-on experience with psilocybin mushrooms and connect deeply with a cohort of fellow visionaries. If you feel called to lead in this space, we'd love to support your path. Learn more and apply today at psychedeliccoaching.institute. Or you can find the link in the description.
Man, that's a great question. And there are so many aspects to it. And I think this might be a slight left turn to your question, but I want to say this first because I think it's going to help arrange what follows, which is this. Our core training for coaches and guides and therapists and those sorts of things that we call foundations really emphasizes this idea that you are already a successful coach. You already have a magic trick. You already have a process. You already have most likely 10, 20, 30 very happy clients who you've helped them build their business. You've helped them save their relationship. You've helped them get into shape. You've helped them shed trauma. You've helped them do a variety of pieces. And from our perspective, we don't think that psychedelics are a panacea. Like, not everybody should take psychedelics in any way, shape, or form. Not every coach or therapist should say, oh, hey, we should add mushrooms. And, you and I were joking earlier that I literally was in a conversation with two different people who are in the coaching, I'm going to call it intellectual property business, last week, both of whom had done mushrooms a few times and then decided their friend asked if they would do it with them. So they guided, supported, sat. It's probably a better version, 1 or 2 times. And then on the third time, they both had a shit show on wheels, one including calling a ambulance. And it's like, for the love of all things good in the world, what on earth made you think that you were capable of doing that? On what planet is it? I did mushrooms twice and now I'm qualified to lead my friend who might be dealing with incredible trauma and all those pieces. So anyway, I just need to say that this is not for everyone. But if you are a coach, a therapist, a consultant who has a magic trick, and you can then look at that magic trick from the perspective of what would be the right medicine? What would be the right set and setting? What would be the right protocol? What would be the right support structure? What would be the right coach? What would be the right integration process that could accelerate that magic? That is kind of the magic trick that we look at. So going back to what I think the heart of your question is what have we noticed from the old personal development world to the psychedelic world? Well, first and foremost is that when we are using such a quantum accelerator and such a powerful tool, is that we require more care. Mm-hmm. In the old days, we used to say in the personal development world, it's like, listen, if you're coaching and you help somebody and you guide somebody to make their own choice, the truth of the matter is that they don't need a PhD to make a choice, and you probably don't need a PhD to make a choice either. However, what's different in the psychedelic space is that if we're dealing with someone who has an ACE score of 8, we can't be tossing them 3.5 grams of mushrooms and hoping that that's going to be okay. We can't do that. So care, concern, vetting, alignment, education, having a support team to help you both vet and filter and to support with the integration piece are all requirements before you start, not after. Not after there's a shit show, not after somebody says, please call 911. That's just dumbassery. I don't know how else to put that. And I mean that in the most serious and humorous sense. It's like the amount of dumbassery in this space can be daunting. So care, concern, vetting, filtering, team, training, structure, knowledge. Those are the key differences, which is all different than, it's like, hey, we're going to build a website and we're going to try and make sure that funnel works. And if it doesn't work exactly right, we're going to change the color on the buy button. Like, there's not much at risk on changing the color in the buy button.
Right. Okay. So this is good. And what I'm hearing a little bit is the practice versus the marketing, the business side. And I want to stay focused, at least for now, and a little bit more around the practice. And then I want to start to branch into marketing and business, because I think a lot of practitioners who are quite fluent in the psychedelic or healing arts or coaching space, the business side presents a lot of quagmires for various reasons that we'll start to get into. But before we get into that, let's talk about the magic tricks, because I love this sort of framing that you have around, psychedelics are these non-specific amplifiers, and they can often make that magic trick even more powerful. And yet not all magic tricks are the same. There are some that are better than others, and I think some that are a better fit maybe for psychedelic work in particular. So talk us through a few examples of what you've seen in your community or folks that you've worked with in terms of the magic tricks that they brought in, and maybe how psychedelics have helped to amplify their capacity and skill sets.
I love that one. And just give you fair warning, I can get carried away in this. Just tell me stop talking whenever you like, okay? So I'm going to start with one that I think is really quite fascinating. And this is a woman who was a massage therapist for chronic pain and had a 20-year roster of clients who came to her not to eliminate the pain, but to cope with the pain that they carried day to day, moment to moment throughout their life. And we helped her design a protocol and do a testing and tracking process where she did a series of, and to be clear about this, when we talk about protocols, we are not talking about this is the milligrams of medicine and this is the time frame and off you go home. This is much more comprehensive than that. So she designed a protocol that included her specific type of body work with varying doses of, in this case, it was MDMA. And in her sample of her beta test, I think it was 15 or 18. That slipped my mind, but it's in the high teens. And in that beta test, if you take off the one person that basically all the pain disappeared, which is kind of interesting and perhaps psychosomatic, who the heck knows, and the one person at the bottom who actually lied on their intake and filtering process and should never have been in the entire process, and we look at that middle range, is that in a span of 12 weeks, plus or minus in terms of when the folks could schedule and all those sorts of things, in a span of 12 weeks, the average was a reduction in just a hair under 40% of their day-to-day pain. So she had a magic trick where she had this capacity to, the pain is high, they would massage, they would create some relaxation, they would do some stuff and it would go down, but it would come back up. But this was over a span of 90 days afterwards that they were still at almost 40% less pain day-to-day, moment-to-moment in their life. Like, that's a magic trick. And that's a magic trick that in her process, she was able to magnify and lengthen in terms of its influence and its effect and its impact, which to me is utterly and completely spectacular.
One thought to share on that, just to sort of back this up even from a clinical research perspective, the University of Michigan, which go blue, in the last couple of years has actually launched a academic research center to study the impact of psychedelics on pain and chronic pain in particular. And so they've shown in some early clinical research that psychedelics can be incredibly helpful at helping to resolve pain, because a lot of pain is something that's more stuck in the memory body, is what they sort of call it, rather than it being actually a real issue, if you will. It's more neurological or nervous system based than it is actually physical.
Of course, and if we were to think of phantom limb pain, for example, like the damn thing isn't even there, and yet it's excruciating for the folks dealing with it.
Exactly. Okay, so we have this pain example. What about...
I can give you a quick business one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask for. Yeah, a quick business one.
I kind of had that sense. Yeah. So one of the things I didn't say that we designed and developed, we developed a protocol called the Blast Off Mastermind, which is a very unique mastermind process aimed at entrepreneurs, day long, one very specific medicine that is a cognitive enhancer, ego dissolver, and collaboration magnifier. And I'll give one example of a gentleman that I have coached just as an entrepreneurial coach now coming up for 10 or 12 years. When we started coaching together, his construction business was doing about $800,000 a year. We built it and worked together, sort of settled in at about $3 to $5 million a year, depending on, if one of those long-term deals kind of popped and then he, somewhere in the 3 to 5. Well, he was always at 3, sometimes up as high as 5 is what I'm trying to say. And he had an experience in the mastermind of shifting from just being a multi-million dollar construction company to shifting into development. And this, by the way, was a conversation that we had for a very long time, all the rest of it. But something happened in the environment of sitting with 8 to 10 brilliant entrepreneurs, and observing and participating in people getting oriented around asking the right question. Because most of the time in those masterminds, people come with a question that is a symptom, not the core, not the core conundrum. Anyway, in watching that happen, he basically said, I'm asking the wrong question. I was going to ask a question about operating my construction company. And the real question I really need to ask is, what is the highest and the best use of my expertise, my team, my unused capacity, and my network in this community? And the answer to that was development. So he has begun developing a variety of things, from multifamily homes to a variety of other, like when you're second homes, like recreation is what I'm trying to say. Recreational properties and those sorts of things. Now, what's interesting is that took him, let's say, to the 3 to the 5, to a 10 to about a 12. And he participated in one of our very early Blast Off masterminds, came back, as most people do, about 6 months later, and said, I'm on fire with this. This is going incredibly well. But there's one other thing that's going on, which is I have a past that I have been hiding from. And I'm done. And I'm going to just tell you what it is. And this is what it is. And I'm okay with the entire world knowing it. And it is time to no longer hide. And he and I had lunch last week. And his sales, he believes, will land at 20 million plus this year because of that alignment and asking the right question. So, there's a whole bunch of pieces that unfold in these when we're doing a magic trick, because even in the entrepreneurial space, the reality is we're not just talking about business. We are talking about this epic alignment of who we are, to what our gift is, to how can we be of best service to us, to our families, our communities, to the world. And in that environment, magic happens every time.
So let's now talk through how this applies to those who are really working in psychedelics. And that could be as a focal point, like a psychedelic therapist or coach, maybe someone who's running a clinic or retreat center, or even someone who's an executive coach, or maybe they're a health and wellness coach and they've started to incorporate psychedelics. It's not the core thing that they're focused on, but they're interested. Because what I love about your example is the alignment component. And what's obvious about your example is this was in construction. This wasn't necessarily in sort of the coaching or healing arts or facilitation space. So let's talk a little bit about, what you've noticed and observed in terms of what are some of the shortcomings right now, or some of the limiting beliefs, or some of the things that hold people back who are psychedelic facilitators or therapists or coaches from really owning, their value and their capacity to create magic in the world around them?
Well, man, there's a lot. And as I think you said, I like that word at the beginning. It's like, there's a quagmire. There's a quagmire and a half. I'll tell you, and I'm open if you don't want to maybe jump on this first, but I think that, and let's set the legality component aside. That is changing, it's evolving, it's doing its thing, and I know that it still terrifies a ton of folks, including my wife. So I understand that. But if we could just set that aside, I actually think one of the larger issues or conundrums about people bringing themselves to psychedelics in a meaningful, intentional, supportive, and if we're talking business, profitable manner, is there aren't a bunch of great examples of how to do it. And you and I talked about this, I think, ages ago in San Diego, is that most of the world, when we started doing our work, would say to us, it's like, oh, so you're doing couples therapy. It's like, no, we're definitely not doing couples therapy. That ain't our way. No. And then there's like, oh, so if it's not couples therapy, so then you run like a couples psychedelic ceremony. It's like, nope, it's not a ceremony either. So I think there's a limited view of what this can be, and so much so that we've actually gone and labeled a category. Whether it's the right label or not, I don't really know, but we've sort of claimed that therapy has a place and it is beautiful. It's saving lives, thank God, and leading the charge for people to have a legal conversation. Ceremony, I think the same thing. Saving lives, doing incredible work, all of those pieces. But you don't have to be broken to jump into this, and you don't have to go to the jungle and beat a drum. to get the benefits of psychedelics. There's a whole nother space in between, which we've called functional psychedelics. And I don't know, do you think, is this a place where we could maybe read that and do that? And then I think I could answer your question more fully.
Yeah, let's do it. Because I think this notion of functional psychedelics, Jay and I had gone back and forth privately, sort of pinging a few ideas. I had landed on like really 5. I think it was therapeutic, ceremonial, recreational, functional, and evolutionary.
Evolutionary. And I was calling that one transformational. Yes. Evolutionary, right. I think, is a better word for it.
I think functional is it feels like it hits the nail on the head of what you're bringing through. And, I love functional medicine has become so much more prominent. And so I think there's also really interesting overlaps between this sort of applied practice of psychedelics and even some of the principles behind functional medicine. So let's go ahead. Let's read that graphic. If you want to share your screen, you can as well for those who are watching the video, because we will publish this on YouTube as well. And this is Jay's lens on functional psychedelics. I think it'll be really helpful to hear for all of the practitioners or those training to become practitioners who are listening to this.
Perfect. And I want to say very clearly that, and sometimes people say, that's definitely AI. And to be clear about this, I uploaded about 8 documents that I'd been spending about 8 months writing, and then AI wove it together and did something. So this is like 85% me and 15% AI, just so we're in perfect clarity. And I don't claim that the manifesto is done. I don't even claim that the title of functional is correct. Honest to goodness. But this is the most comprehensive stand that I can describe. And when I'm talking to people, when they're asking, is it a ceremony or is it therapy? And this is what I share with them. So the Functional Psychedelics Manifesto. This is not therapy. This is not ceremony. This is the future of personal evolution. We are the ones who look successful on paper, but something inside us is whispering, there's more. There's more aliveness. There's more depth. There's more truth. There's more love. There's more fucking soul. We've tried mindset. We've read books. We've done the coaching. We've journaled the gratitude. And yet something still feels flat. Because this next chapter of life, it is not about more productivity. It's about more presence. It's not about fixing what's broken. It's about revealing what has been waiting all along. We believe that transformation should be functional, grounded, intentional, and integrated. We are not here to escape. We are not here to go on a trip. We are not here to appropriate. We are not here to follow someone else's script. We are here to bring sacred tools into real life, to grieve fully, to love deeply, to forgive honestly, to awaken unapologetically, to create in alignment, to reclaim intimacy, creativity, courage, purpose in a way that sticks. This is not so much about healing our past, although that is a part of it. It's more about being initiated into our next becoming. This is a return to the sacred within the ordinary. Functional psychedelics is where modern life meets ancient wisdom, without dogma, without diagnosis, without needing to be broken to begin. It's a precision approach to personal evolution that is built for healthy normals who are ready for an intentional shift. Midlife, new love, divorce, death, empty nest, health crisis, burnout, awakening, soul fire reignition. And we meet the moment with medicine, consciously, responsibly, and reverently. We do the work in real time, not in escape. We come back with truth that we can walk with. We are not patients, we are pilgrims. We are guided, not fixed. We are held, not handled. We are respected, not reduced to protocols. We trust our intuition as much as the science. We honor the medicine and the map. We see our life and our relationships as the real integration container. This is a movement, a method, a remembering. And we claim our right to explore consciousness outside of clinical coldness and beyond borrowed ceremonies. We honor lineage, and we also evolve practice. We walk the middle path with care, clarity, and conviction. We are creating a new lane, an alternate method, a sacredly modern path, and we call it functional psychedelics. And this is just the beginning.
Beautiful.
So why I wanted to read that first is that I think one of the big quagmires for people leaning into this space is that there's this whole area, and we're going to call it, like if there was a pendulum, this sort of like this middle third of healthy normals that are just going through life. That I believe, I go so far as to say I know in every cell of my being that the biggest leaps in human consciousness, the biggest transformations that are going to occur in the fastest, smoothest, and easiest way is with healthy normals who are wise enough, sharp enough, and grounded enough to get the support to accelerate those transitions so that they can bring more of themselves back to their life. And that to me is when we start thinking about, wow, how could we use the right medicine at the right time with the right intention for the right client, with the right support coach, with the right long-term integration and community, man, we can change the world and do so quickly and beautifully. So that I think is the heart of answering the question in my mind.
And we share a lot of overlap in that. I mean, I've told you about this. I haven't really prefaced it with the audience, but I have a second book coming out that sort of explores this overlap of the value of exploration, right? What it means to explore, what it means to be creative, what it means to go out into the unknown and try to bring something back, and how psychedelics facilitate that exploratory mindset. Because I think, we all agree that the mental health benefits are undeniable when it comes to psychedelic work for depression, addiction, PTSD. And yet, a lot of these, let's say, new systems that we anticipate building or creating will not necessarily come from people who are struggling intensely just to get back to baseline. It's how can psychedelics be used with skill, right? That's something I've talked a lot about, the skill of psychedelics by healthy normals to create businesses that are more in alignment with profit, purpose, and planet is sort of the frame that I love. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about, we talk about functional psychedelics, and what I heard in that response even is this is, in a way, a blue ocean that not a lot of people are thinking about right now or considering. And I want to hear you sort of wrap a little bit on why you believe this overlap of psychedelics and coaching is still a massive blue ocean, and maybe talk a little bit about, how you were there early on at the beginning of coaching, not just psychedelics, but coaching in general, what you've seen from that.
Okay. So let's just start with the truth of this is I'm old. and I have been I started professionally in the personal transformation space. In 1988, I did my facilitator training. And so I've been at it for a day or two. And I just need to say as clear as I can, we should probably just define blue ocean and red ocean, just to be clear about this. Because the overall coaching industry currently is a red ocean. It is, yes, the size of the marketplace in terms of coaching continues to grow, thank goodness. But at the same time, there continues to be everyone and their dog putting out a shingle and a business card. Well, I guess we're past business cards, but a shingle saying that they're a coach. So what's transpiring is that the number of offers in the coaching space and the rate at which it's growing isn't really keeping up, which means that people are competing and have competing offers and have competing invitations and have not just overlapping, but almost identical promises that make it incredibly difficult to, number one, find a client, convert a client, keep a client, all of those pieces. Like, it's damn difficult. You have to have a magic trick and a half, and you have to have some awareness of your magic trick and a half to have any sort of success in that domain. That's what we call a red ocean. Market fundamentally remaining the same, or at least proportionally remaining the same, and more competition to try and find a client. Blue ocean is where we create a category, or we create a solution and a process that doesn't really exist anywhere else. And, it's interesting how you framed it, because and this is one of the things that I appreciate about you, Paul. I just want to acknowledge you, is that Corey and I are pretty new to this space. It's like 5 years ago. We was like, holy crap, psychedelics, like you've been at it as long as I've been in the old coaching world. So when you say it's like, it's still blue ocean, from my perspective, it's like, hell, the people who are in blue ocean don't even realize they're in blue ocean. That's how blue ocean, the blue ocean is. Like, it's crazy to me. Utterly crazy. And so we are, at best, if we use that early adoption curve, we are at best, 5 to 8% in. Like that's at best. And I want to be very clear about this. And you've shared this meme quite a lot about 8 million Americans have tried psilocybin and those sorts of things. And that number's probably a little bit low because not everybody's telling the truth about it and all the rest of it. But that's okay. But, and I mean this both seriously and facetiously, it's like mushrooms are the gateway psychedelic. There's an entire world and universe for people to explore, and particularly in the context of functional psychedelics, medicines to deploy, right person, right time, right intention, all those sorts of things, that's just so scratching the surface. Like that is so scratching the surface. It is ridiculous. So I would just want to say to anyone here who's like, geez, there's a lot of media about the psychedelic word, the psychedelic revolution. I think I might have missed it. My friends, it hasn't started yet. It has not started yet from the perspective of functional psychedelics.
Mm.
So anyway, I'll get off my little soapbox now. But if you're thinking of, maybe I would integrate psychedelics to accelerate my magic trick, for the love of all things good in the world, get on it quickly, get on it intelligently, get on it and protect that intellectual property, which, here's just a good example of this that might be a little out of order in terms of what we're talking about. But we recently began selling the licensing of our connection experience model, where we actually certify couples to utilize our process to serve and support other couples. So quite literally, if you're using your head about this, what you design in the world of functional psychedelics becomes intellectual property that can create license fees, royalties, a whole variety of pieces that most of this world is not even thinking about yet.
Now, one thing about your approach in particular, and I think we share a lot in common when it comes to this, is you're not necessarily waiting for laws to change to do the work that you think needs to be done. I think this is an important sort of point of emphasis, right? And we all have different risk thresholds in terms of what we're comfortable with. There will be some people who are listening to this who, they really want to stick to maybe ketamine or sort of legal options in Colorado, Oregon. But for those who may be on the fence or are sort of new to this world even, who are considering becoming practitioners and facilitators in this space and maybe a little intimidated by some of the legal stuff, I'd just be curious to hear sort of your thoughts and perspectives on what's given you the courage to really come out and do this work in the way that you've done it. And why do you think it's important? Because I talk about this all the time. They don't need to hear it from me again. But why do you think it's important that folks really, don't wait necessarily for all the laws to be perfect to really start this purposeful, healing, transformational work?
Oh, that's a really big conversation. And I just want to say thank you for asking the question, because it's actually unbelievably important. And top of the list is this. My wife and I would be divorced if it weren't for psychedelics. And I want to be very clear about this. That means that my boys wouldn't have a full-time father. Now, psychedelics didn't do the work. Psychedelics opened the door for us to face ourselves at a level that was not accessible to us. And to put that in context, we led a couple of retreats for years prior to this. We've helped over 40,000 people through deep personal transformation. We went we weren't clueless, but we were stuck. And that experience I will be forever grateful for, because it did great work in my home, in my parenting, in the bedroom, in my heart, everywhere. And for what I'm going to call inappropriate, outdated, antiquated, and ridiculous laws to make the intentional, intelligent, careful, cautious, deliberate use of those substances illegal is a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. And I will stand on the street corner, on the mountaintop, in a courtroom, and I will scream at the top of my lungs, the politicians, the law enforcement, and our government had best get their ass in gear, because this is unacceptable. So first and foremost, that's my core drive. Now, that said, I also, it's as I said earlier, it's important for me to be home, for me to be a father to my boys. I don't want to be absent because of breaking the law. So I do my very best to be as cautious as I can in that I will tell the world that I am a psychedelic advocate, educator, and guide. When it comes time to actually doing the work of the transactions and those sorts of things, we put an awful lot of care into the vetting, into the filtering, into the questioning, into the knowing who we're dealing with. And we have been blessed with a very tight circle of human beings who love and care for us, who have been willing to share the beautiful work that has occurred for them with their tight circle of people that they care about. So I think it's important to be bold, and I think it's important to be careful, and I think it's important to let the world know that the current state of psychedelic access is perhaps one of the absolute worst travesties slash crime against humanity that exists on the planet today. And I'll take that argument up anywhere, anytime, any place.
Yeah, and I think in some ways you're preaching to the choir, right? With that lens, because it's, yeah, I mean, we could just go on and on about how stupid these drug laws are. But also we've seen, I will say as well, we've seen a lot more openness from law enforcement, and we've seen a lot, I know there are a lot of people in law enforcement who have now had their lives changed through psychedelic work. And so unfortunately the sort of political system moves much slower. I mean, I'm getting a sort of barrage of notifications in my email right now from Ontario, because all these in-person shops that have sort of set up storefronts are now getting busted and really taken down at a substantial rate. And yet you can still go online in Canada or in the United States and pretty much order
anything.
And so it's this wild, wild west. And I think this comes back to the point, right, of why we need individuals who are not only qualified for the practice of it, but are also have sort of the ethics, integrity, and skill set from a business perspective to really deliver this in a way that feels good all around.
Yeah, and so I just want to lean on the online access, which on the one hand is I'm pretty happy about, and on the other hand, and by the way, in the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator, we teach basically a process of handling and testing medicine that makes sure that when you hand it across, if that's going to be your role, that it is safe, tested, secure, all of those pieces. So we go through that. But I want to just be very clear about this, is that even some of the trusted suppliers that I have used, because we test every single thing every single time. It is one of the things that our clients pay for. Everything's tri-tested. I mean, it comes from the best lab we can actually get it from. It is then tested in terms of purity and fentanyl. Then we personally utilize it and test it before it ever goes into somebody else's mouth. So there's a whole thread about how to do that properly. But the point I want to make is, even through some of my trusted suppliers, when I send stuff out, it does sometimes comes back as a completely different substance, or it comes back at 48% purity, or it comes back as. So here's one of the things: if folks are listening, it's like, oh, I can just go get it. It's like, no. You need to go get it, and you need to have a protocol to ensure safety for you and your clients, or you shouldn't be doing this. Just as simple as that. This is not it'd be nice if. This is a required to.
100%. That tidbit that you shared with me, I know it's been more privately around the substances, and people will say it's this, and then you test it and it's really that. That really surprised me, and even kind of rocked me a little bit, because that's the unfortunate truth of the underground right now is you don't know what you're getting in many situations, and that's a risk, especially with things that are powders, if you will.
Yes. Well, and so I just want to lean on that. And so, because these are conversations I'm having with people all the time, going, it's like, oh, I'm all good. Oh, I trust my person. It's like, listen, I got 4 substances from a church. And by the way, the quote, I'm going to be so kind of a dick. The holy supplier and vetter for the church and their entire community and all. It's like, in people's perspective, it's like, I got it almost from the hand of God. And it's like, 4 substances checked. 3 of them aren't what they told us.
Right.
3/4 of the so you can't, because it comes from your church or your best friend or all. You must. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. Sorry,
You got to vet, you got to test. And this is partly what we'll talk about in the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator. So Jay, we're sort of coming to the end. If folks are curious about joining this training, November 20 to 22nd, the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator, how can they find out more details and information about this offer?
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming we're going to share a link and a code for
That's correct.
For third wave
audio.
Yeah, exactly. So, short version, the link below, visit it, use the code third wave. It'll get you 1/3 off. And by the way, there's 3 different tickets, so you can do it as inexpensively as $97. That's before the discount, and get all of the education. You can step that up if you choose for $297, and you'll end up with the recordings, which quite frankly, in this space, you're going to want, because there is so much that we're going to teach you about building a business that you will not be able to apply instantly. You're going to need that in terms of like, oh, now I'm ready for my beta offer. How do I do that? It'll be in the videos. You also get a bunch of VIP speakers. There's a bunch of really great speakers, and there's also a guy named Paul, I think is probably going to be, he'll be all right, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Let's hope I'm on that day. You never know, really.
So there'll be a bunch of VIP speakers and a pre-event, what we're calling Microdose and Mingle, where we're going to do an online event where we'll have a couple of cool ways to meet a bunch of the folks, including the speakers, the presenters, the other VIPs. So that's $297, but again, 1/3 off. Or if you want to go full on in with additional training and support, there's a ticket that we call Top Speed, and that actually includes an entire microdosing protocol, supplies, all of the other things included, and a whole bunch of other support as well. So 1/3 off. And by the way, usually those sort of early bird discounts like that go until about 3 weeks prior to the actual event. So act now, and you will be thrilled that you did. And I think the only other thing I want to say to folks is this. When it comes to positioning and landing an offer and testing an offer and doing things in a manner that actually works, it's my magic trick. Like that's the thing that I have done best. Most of the time, if I decide I'm going to build a business, I can create a business from scratch to 7 figures, usually in 90 days, sometimes 180 days. It took a little longer with the psychedelic business because we didn't know it was a business. We were just helping our friends at the beginning. But the truth of the matter is I have done it in a multitude of different spaces. I have clients from all over the world who've been paying me for decades to help them do the same. And if really stepping in intelligently, strategically, and wisely into the psychedelic space to magnify the magic that you already have. And that's whether you're a Reiki master, whether you are a massage therapist, whether you are a fitness a personal coach, or whether you're an entrepreneurial coach. There is a methodology that will help you create a protocol that will create your own blue ocean. You do not need to compete with the rest of the world. You do not need to compete with your industry. You can do exactly what Corey and I did, which is creating something called a connection experience that quite literally, there's nothing like it on the planet. If you want to do that experience, you come here, or now one of our licensed facilitators. But when you have it in that manner, the rest of it gets easy. So anyway, that's the key promise is explore what is necessary for you to build and create your own blue ocean. And we'll give you a multitude of case studies. You'll meet people who have done it, and we'll step you through teaching it to you, not just talking about it.
So Psychedelic Coach Accelerator, November 20 to 22nd. Make sure to get early access. We'll have a discount code and a link that will drop on the main page. If you're just listening to this on the road, just go to the podcast page for the one with Jay Fiset that we just published, and we'll have that there, a link there. Jay, I appreciate you coming on. I can't wait to be part of the Psychedelic Coach Accelerator training. And one thing I'll note is, I can sort of vet or validate what Jay mentioned. I brought him in to help us launch our beta for our microdosing practitioner certification program. I think we were trying to fill 25 spots. We ended up filling 39 spots. So we way oversubscribed and over enrolled. So this is just a little live testimonial for Jay as well. We love Jay, and I think there'll be a lot of value that's delivered for coaches and practitioners and those who want to become practitioners in the psychedelic space for this training.
It is the thing I love to do. Thank you for having me, brother. I deeply appreciate it.
Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The psychedelic space is evolving every day, and we have a ton of amazing content that's coming out, and subscribing is the best way to keep up to date with all of that great content.